Welcome in Craft and Design 3.0 for my dear guys, for my dear audience. In this video, I will describe some different and much beautiful ideas of welding project or die welding project craft and different designs for beneficial purpose for a small welding project for becoming a money becoming a good welder. These ideas are much essential. So, my dear guys, welding is a fabrication process that join material, usually metal or thermoplastic, primarily by using high temperature to melt the parts together and allow them. mm, uh, I think allow them to cool, causing fusion. So common alternative method include solvent welding of thermoplastic using chemicals to melt materials being bonded without heat, and solid state welding process which bond without melting, such as pressure cold welding and diffusion bonding. So metal welding is distinct from lower temperature bonding techniques such as brazing and soldering, which don't melt the base metal, parent metal, and instead require flowering filler metal to solidify their bonds. So in addition to melting the base metal, in welding, a filler material is typically added to the joint to form a pool of molten material, the weld pool. So that cools to form a joint that based on weld configuration, butt and full penetration and fillet can be stronger than the base material. So welding also requires a form of shield to protect the filler metals or melted metals from being contaminated or oxidized. So many different energy sources can be used for welding, including a gas flame, chemical, an electric arc or electrical, a laser and electron beam, friction and ultrasound. While often an industrial process, welding may be performed in many different environments, including in open air and underwater and in outer space. So, welding is a hazardous undertaking, and precautions are required to avoid burns and electric shock, vision damage, inhalation of poisonous gases and fumes, and exposures to intensive ultraviolet radiation. So until the end of the 19th century, the only welding process was forge welding, which blacksmiths had used for millennia to join iron and steel by heating and hammering. So arc welding and oxy-fuel welding were among the first processes to develop late in the century, and electric resistance welding followed soon after. So as the welding technology advanced quickly during the early 20th century, as World War drove the demand for reliable and inexpensive joining method. So following the wars, several modern welding techniques were developed, including manual method like shielded metal arc welding. Now, one of the most popular welding method, as well as semi-automatic and automatic process such as gas metal arc welding and submerged arc welding and flux core arc welding and electro slag welding. Development continued with the invention of laser beam welding, electron beam welding, and magnetic pulse welding, and friction or stir welding in the later half of the century. Today, as the science continues to advance, robot welding is commonplace in industrial settings, and researchers continue to develop new welding methods and gain greater understanding of weld quality. So, etymology, the term weld is derived from the Middle English well, as a welding meaning to heat to the maximum temperature possible to bring to a boil. So, the modern word was probably derived from the different past conditions. And so, my dear guys, uh, If we talk about the history of these welding project or metal welding project in different condition, the historical background, the history of organic metals goes back several millennia. The earliest example of this come from the Bronze and Iron Ages in the Europe and the Middle East. So the ancient Greek historian Herodotus state in the stories of the 5th century BC, the Glacos Chess was the man who single-handedly invented iron welding. Forge welding was used in the construction of the iron pillar of Delhi, erected in Delhi. In most all about India, about 310 AD and weighing 5.4 metric tons. So the Middle Ages brought advances in forge welding, in which blacksmith pounded heated metal repeatedly until bonding occurs. In 1540, Venoxio or Brengosio published the Hypertechnia, which includes description of the fogging operation. So Renaissance craftsmen were skilled in the process and the industry continued to grow during the following century. In 18, Sir Humphrey Davy discovered the short pulse electrical arc and presented his result in 1801. In 1802, Russian scientist Vasily Petrov created a continuous electric arc and subsequently published a new galvanic violet voltaic and experiment in 1803, in which he described experiment carried out in 1802. Of great importance in this work was the description of a stable arc discharge and the indication of its possible use of many applications. So one being melting metals in 1808, Davy, who was unaware of Petrov's work, and rediscovered the continuous electric arc in 1881-82. Inventors Nikolai Bernardus Russian and Strange Law Malsievic's Polish created the first electric arc welding method known as carbon arc welding using carbon electrodes. So the advances in arc welding continued with the invention of metal electrodes in the late 1800s by Russian Nicholas and Slavenio and an American around 19. So straw manager released a coated metal electrode in Britain, which gave a more stable arc. In 95, Russian and scientist Vladimir Mitkevich proposed using a three-phase electric arc of welding. So alternating current welding was invented by C.J. Hall's in 1990, but did not become popular for another decades. So resistance welding was also developed during the final decades of the 19th century, with the first patents going to Lee Thompson in 1885, who produced further advances over the next 15 years. So, my dear guys, World War I caused a major surge in the use of welding, with the various military powers attempting to determine which of the several new welding processes would be the best. So, the British primarily use arc welding, even constructing a ship, the flagger with an entirely welded hull. Says arc welding was first applied to aircraft during the wars as well. So, as some German airplanes fuselages were constructed using the process. So, also noteworthy is the first welded road bridges in the world. So, the Mosaic Bridge in Poland in 1928. And during the 1920s, significant advances were made in welding technology, including the introduction of automatic welding in the 1920, in which electrode wire was fed continuously. Shielding gas became a subject receiving much attention as scientists attempting to protect weld from the effective of oxygen and nitrogen in the atmosphere. So, uh, porosity and brittleness were the primary problems, and the solutions that develop include the use of hydrogen, argon, and helium as welding atmosphere. During the following decades are also further advances allowed for the welding of reactive metals like aluminium and magnesium. So this in conjunction with development in automatic welding, alternating current, and fluxes fed a major expansion of arc welding during the 1930s. And then during World War II in 1930, the first all-welded merchant vessel MS Carolinian was launched. So during the middle of century, many new welding methods were invented. In 1930, Coyle Taylor was responsible for the release of stud welding, which soon became popular in shipbuilding and construction. And submerged arc welding was invented the same year and continues to be popular today. In 1932, a Russian Konstantin Khayanov eventually implemented the first underwater electric arc welding. And gas tungsten arc welding, after decades of development, was finally perfected in 1941, and gas metal arc welding followed in 1948, allowing for fast welding of non-ferrous material, but requiring expensive shielding gases. So, shielded metal arc welding was developed during the 1950s using a flux coated consumable electrode, and it quickly became the most popular metal arc welding process in 1957. That flux cord arc welding and arc welding process debuted, in which the self-shielded wire electrode could be used with automatic equipment, resulting in greatly increased welding speed. And that same year, so plasma arc welding was invented by Robert Gage. Electroslag welding was introduced in 1958, and it was followed by its cousin, and electrogas welding in 1961 and 1953. The Soviet scientist N.F. Kazakev proposed the diffusion bonding method. So the recent developments in welding include the 1958 breakthrough of electron beam welding, making deep and narrow welding possible through the consumable and consume concentrated the heat source. So following the invention of laser in 1960, laser beam welding debuted several decades later, and has proved to be especially useful in high-speed automated welding perspective. So, when my dear guys, I talk about this welding project. So it is a much costly talk that it can be a much essential, much beneficial for our economic life, for our social life, for our um, uh, different purpose of our life. We learn from them. So my dear guys, I think that my video and my idea inspired you much, and if inspired, then subscribe my channel and like my video and share my video. Thank you very much.